a photo finish, an upset winner, and the biggest crash in NASCAR history. Of course, we're talking about Talladega. Welcome back to the Breaking Balls channel. It's Bob here. My goodness, I'm just trying to catch my breath after that race today. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. Make sure you're subscribed. And before we get into everything, and comment below if I'm crazy or let me know if you were too. The whole time during this race today, I was thinking about Drafty Car. If you don't know what it is, check it out. You're going to be spending a lot of time on that. But yes, we are talking about Talladega, the second race in the NASCAR round of 12 playoffs battle. And my goodness, it did deliver. What you saw on track today was action-packed racing and clean racing for the most part, all the way up until 5 to go. Ricky Stenhouse, though, with a massive upset win. Congratulations to him and that JTD Doherty 47 team. This is the third closest finish of the season following Kansas and Atlanta, but Stenhouse beat Brad Keselowski by only 6/1000ths of a second at the line. A very, very tight race there. But I'm glad to see Stenhouse, the Mississippi native, pull through. He's one of the good guys in the garage. You heard him on his post-race interview on the front stretch talking about how he wants to go help in North Carolina this week with recovery efforts. Just a guy who's been in the garage for a long time. One of the good stories. He's got a reputation, of course, with Ricky Stenhouse, but I think the last few years has definitely turned his image around with JTD Doherty team. That one-car team is a great story. It also could be the final win for that JTD name, as the G in that team's name was Tad Geschlichter, who has left the team, and they are potentially rebranding, as that Couch Racer tweet has surfaced tonight. So JTD Doherty could be rebranding. Of course, Geschlichter has left the team, and he is taking Kroger with him. They are reportedly heading to RFK with a third charter there. I had a video on that a couple weeks ago, so it all comes around there. But for the JTD Doherty team, a great moment for them to celebrate. And this is the third non-playoff driver already in 5 races to come through for victory lane. So congrats to Ricky Stenhouse. A great moment there for that 47 team all around. And you never know what you're going to get at Talladega. Stenhouse held off both Brad Keselowski and William Byron at the finish line there. But with 10 to go, I noticed that there was some of the big names that you expect at the restrictor plates. With Stenhouse, of course, you had Joey Logano, Austin Cindric, Brad Keselowski, William Byron. Some of these guys that you expect to see up there the last few years that have competed at these restrictor plate drafting style tracks in the next gen era. Stenhouse has proved he is not a fluke winner when it comes to these drafting style tracks. He will always be in the mix there at the end. And with those guys that I did name, some of them didn't make it because with a few laps to go that caused this overtime restart was the biggest crash in NASCAR history. 28 cars in the field were involved. That's right, 28 cars were involved after Austin Cindric got turned around in the front of the field, hit leader Ricky Stenhouse, and left a big old gash on the door. But Stenhouse was able to continue along with Keselowski and a few other guys in the front. Of course, major playoff implications with 28 cars involved. Of course, you're going to have playoff drivers involved in this. Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe. Of course, Chase Elliott did make it to the pits because I guess we're just picking and choosing who gets to go to the garage and who's on the DVP policy. But that's a whole different argument for a whole different day. Chase Elliott did get to come back on track, but a lot of guys got caught up. Of course, 28 cars. A lot of them were taken out in that wreck. Just absolute calamity in the front of the field there. It was inevitable, though. And honestly, the fact that there was only one real big one in this race, outside of Ryan Blaney's wreck at the end of stage 2, was a damn miracle. Because when you really watch this race back, you're going to be just absolutely flabbergasted at how aggressive and tight the racing was. They were 4 wide for the majority of stage 1, and stage 3 you saw it at times as well, and it was just aggressive racing. Guys not giving an inch, but at the same time, nobody wrecked for the most part outside of, like I said, the big one and Ryan Blaney's stage 2 crash there. Daniel Suarez also tried to Kevin LePage the field there as well. I'm not really sure what the end game was for Suarez because, yes, you're probably going to be a lap down, maybe 2, but you're going to be able to get it back. You almost just wrecked yourself in the entire field and just took yourself from a horrible spot to an almost must-win spot at the Roval. Luckily, Suarez was able to come back and fight his way back, but the juice was just not worth the squeeze there. It seemed like today there were guys having issues getting caught by the field there and just finding a way to navigate. I guess everyone wants to be Joe Logano and send that dangerous block, but you got to be able to pull it off there or at least live with the consequences there. But otherwise, incredible racing. Like I said, 4 wide today. This was probably the best drafting race of the next-gen era as far as Atlanta, Talladega, and Daytona go. This is probably exactly what the NASCAR executives wanted as far as drafting style tracks with this next gen car. And maybe it's taken 3 years, but the drivers have finally, I think, figured out how to maneuver and how to get comfortable as far as generating lines and momentum on the track there. Looking at the results, though, from Talladega today, Ricky Stenhouse, Brad Keselowski, and William Byron 1, 2, 3. They were all within 0.3 of a second of one another hitting the finish line there. Kyle Larson in P4, though. Kyle Larson finished a drafting style track in one piece and got a top 5 out of it. With Vanderbilt beating Alabama this weekend, I guess everything is possible here. Kyle Larson certainly proving it in Alabama this weekend that anything is possible. Eric Jones even getting a Legacy Motor Club top 5. You saw Jimmy Johnson on the media stand for NBC. I know Jimmy is glad he was not racing today. He would have been caught up on an accident on lap 1. I guarantee it there for him. Justin Haley with a top 10 as well with P7 for Spira Motorsports and his new digs with the number 7 car. Bubba Wallace and Austin Dillon also with a top 10. And oh, wait a minute, there's Denny Hamlin. Yeah, so one thing I didn't mention about that big wreck with 28 cars involved was it completely flipped the playoff grid upside down. And Denny Hamlin was one of the guys that it really favored there. Because before that wreck with 10 to go, Denny Hamlin was 17 points out of the cutoff line. And when that wreck happened, Denny Hamlin found himself in a top 10 spot and finished in the top 10. He was 35 points to the good at one point after that wreck. We'll get into where the playoff order is later, but Denny Hamlin was probably the biggest winner in that massive pileup today as he was able to avoid it. Cody Ware in the Rick Ware Racing, number 15, 12th place. Good for him. Shane Van Gisbergen also 15th in the Kaulig, number 16. Shane Van Gisbergen also made history today as he set the fastest lap time in next-gen history, almost 199 miles per hour today at Talladega for Shane Van Gisbergen. He led a majority of the second stage today. And I gotta say, for all the people that were saying, oh, Shane Van Gisbergen's only going to be a threat on road courses, on ovals, he's just going to be a... Shane Van Gisbergen looked like he belonged today. And he looked like every lap he was out there, he was more and more comfortable wearing the draft. And when he had to split cars in the middle of leading a top line there at Talladega, he did it with relative ease there. That's not something that's very easy to do for Shane Van Gisbergen, credit where credit's due, 15th place there in that Kaulig number 16 today. I will say, a team that always qualifies well at drafting style tracks is Front Row Motorsports, and just seems like the results haven't been there this year for a team that has great speed every week. You think they would have stolen one of these plate tracks, but nope. Todd Gillen, 23rd, he had a speeding penalty in stage 3 that really just kind of messed with his day. And you saw that Michael McDowell was caught in that big wreck as well. Looked like Chase Briscoe and his crew chief were ready to fight the team before they pulled the net down, but unfortunately for that 14 team, they are now in a must-win position heading to the Charlotte Roval. And let's go ahead and take a look at the playoff standings after the second race in the round of 12. One race to go. The cutoff race next week for the round of 12 is the Charlotte Roval. And my goodness, William Byron is thankful. He has set himself in a place where he is advanced off points. Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson in almost guaranteed locks as well. And then it gets a little more interesting there. Denny Hamlin, 30 points to the good. Yes, he's in a great spot, and it could have been a lot worse, like I said earlier today, where he was 17 down, but not a great road course racer there. So he's going to be scratching and clawing for every stage point he can and hoping there's a little bit of carnage there just so he's not sweating there for Denny Hamlin and that 11 team. Alex Bowman and Ryan Blaney, 25 and 26 points to the good. They were at one point really fast cars, but just victim of circumstance with that big accident. But luckily, they've been able to bank points. Alex Bowman has gotten points in every single stage in the playoff races so far. That means days like today at Talladega aren't just complete ruiners and put you in a spot where you're in a must-win position for Charlotte. Tyler Reddick and Chase Elliott both feel pretty good, and they're really good at road courses, so I don't see any issues with them, even though they're only 14 and 13 the good. That's where it gets interesting, though, is Joe Logano, Daniel Suarez, Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe. I think this is where you're going to see the 4 eliminations. I don't think you're going to see any changes unless one of those guys goes out and wins the Roval. But I think with the field as stacked as it is next week, of course, you're going to have to go through SVG, but you're going to have to go through the king of the Roval and AJ Allmendinger, who's won his last 4 years at the Roval between Xfinity and Cup Series races. So I think for those 4 guys, I think they're going to be the ones on the outside looking in when it's all said and done, heading to the round of 8. This is where I want to open it up to you, though. Let me know down below, not only what did you think of today's Talladega race, but What are your thoughts on the playoff standings heading into the Roval? Am I crazy, or do you think that this is where the playoff standings are going to be after the Roval? And of course, like I said, did you think of Drafty Car today while you were watching the race? If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Like this video. It helps me out a ton here at Breaking Balls. I'll keep you in the loop for all things NASCAR and motorsports moving forward. The Roval next weekend, we'll see what news comes out this week. But like I said, stay tuned for more here at Breaking Balls. Thanks for watching.